Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome, one, welcome all. As you enter, please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button. We're here to give you an update in the context of Jolyan Silvera and the case of Melissa Silvera. And so we're just here to provide updates, not to really comment on any facts. So in the or facts or opinions. And so we're just going to share what is out there in the public domain. As we perhaps know, this has been a topical issue for the last few days, and we now know that Jolyan Silvera pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the context of the death of his wife, Melissa Silvera. All right, so we want to provide you an update of where that is currently and what is to come next in the context of the legal side of things. So as you enter, please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and of course the subscription button, and also comment in the chat. I just want to check to make sure that you're hearing me loud and clear in the chat. We'll take some opportunities for a phone call, but we ask you to keep it real and respectful. We're not about defaming anybody and also about, defamation. So if you're going to call, just share your opinion. Let's go. And we just keep it there, real and respectful. And as always, you can share in the chat. All right. So give me a moment while I try to share this link. All right. But again, welcome one, welcome all. Please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and of course, the subscription button as we continue to grow stronger together. Again, welcome one, welcome all. All right, let's go. So, all right, now, in the context of this, so initially, Jolyan was charged for murder in the context of his wife's death. All right, but I am now understanding, and this is just my understanding from what is shared there, that the DPP's office perhaps did not have enough evidence in the context of a charge for murder. And so what they were relying on was, from my understanding and readings of what is being shared, what they were relying on was circumstantial evidence. All right. So the other question, I guess, that comes to mind is, perhaps the defense, they did not know that, and I guess they relied heavily too on that ballistic report. And so we know that when this case was about to begin, Mr. Silvera pleaded guilty, all right, in the context of manslaughter and not to the murder charge. All right, so what I'm going to do, I am going to go to this clip from a lawyer. He refers to himself as the TikTok lawyer, just to give you a little understanding of just that change in context. So let's go to this clip.
I've been summoned to speak on this Jolyan Silvera matter, and because I am the TikTok lawyer, I feel duty bound to explain to my followers. Now, for those who don't know, Mr. Silvera pleaded guilty for manslaughter, which is the killing of his wife. Now, murder and manslaughter are both homicides, and by homicide I mean the unlawful killing of a person. Now, the difference between murder and manslaughter is that manslaughter is the less of the two offenses. Murder requires intention, which is foresight of a virtual certainty that your actions will result in death or grievous bodily harm, while manslaughter requires recklessness, which means you foresaw risk and you took the risk anyway, which resulted in the death of a person. Now, Mr. Silvera, by virtue of his plea, is saying, I killed my wife, but I had no intentions of killing her. Now, the judge is to make a determination as to whether he could accept the plea of Mr. Silvera. Because Mr. Silvera was not charged for manslaughter, he was charged for murder, the more serious offense. Now, The Crown and the defense, by virtue of an act called the Criminal Justice Plea Negotiations and Agreements Act, can enter into agreements for a plea to be entered. However, under Section 10 of that act, the judge is not bound to accept that plea. But I'm not sure if there was a formal agreement under this act or it was an offer from the Crown which Mr. Silvera and his team accepted. Now, the only way, though, the judge can accept that plea if there was no formal agreement is if the facts of the case disclose the existence of manslaughter. Now, if manslaughter doesn't arise on the facts, then the judge can reject Mr. Silvera's plea. Do you understand? Jamaica, I've been summoned.
All right, so that was Davian Vassell, and he refers to himself as the TikTok lawyer. So we now know that the DPP's office, they're okay with this plea, and we now know too that Justice Sykes accepted this plea. So we now know all of that. So they're moving forward with this plea of manslaughter. And we also know that the sentencing for Mr. Silvera will be on March 6th, so next month. But there are some other things that came up in the context of, the manslaughter charge, specifically regarding provocation as a defense. And so I am going to go to this article from the Gleaner, but let me just quickly check in the chat to see. So if you're here, guys, just hit the like button, comment in the chat, let me know that you're here. That would be fantastic. I am not able to access the chat yet, but I will in a few as soon as it comes up on my end. But again, please remember to hit the like button and let us know your views as it relates to this case and how it is unfolding. All right, so I am going to go to this Gleaner article. All right, so just give me a moment to get this up. And I'm just going to share with you the facts of this case as shared by the Gleaner, and I guess based on their understanding. And there's some facts to it too. And perhaps I'll go to that part. And I guess this is coming directly, that part is coming directly from the court. So I am just waiting for my page here to load on my end. And again, welcome if you're just tuning in. I am just here to give an update. So this article titles Full Text DPP Explains How Provocation Changed Silvera's Murder Case to Manslaughter. All right. And so this is a report from the Gleaner. The office of the DPP says it accepted politicians Jolyan Silvera's guilty plea to manslaughter after concluding it could not disprove his claim that he was provoked into shooting his wife in 2023. All right, so what the DPP is saying here is essentially, in my own words and understanding, is that they didn't have any evidence to really get this man on a murder charge. So and you'll hear a little bit later in this report too. So it's also reported that Silvera, a former PNP St. Mary Western member of parliament, said he initially did not admit to his actions because he did not want to deprive his children of both parents. All right. The office of the DPP outlined the evidential and legal basis for accepting the plea in a statement released in the interest of justice and transparency on Friday, so that's today. Melissa Silvera, 42, was shot and unalived by, and I'm kind of substituting some words here, guys, by her husband at their Stony Hill St. Andrew home on November 10, 2023. All right, so Silvera had been charged with murder and using a firearm to commit a felony. He pleaded guilty to manslaughter and using a firearm to commit a felony as his trial was scheduled to begin before Chief Justice Brian Sykes on Monday. He is to be sentenced on March 6th. All right, so that's pretty much but I'm going to go to the facts of the well, let's just continue reading the Gleaner's article, and then if we need to go there, we'll go there. All right, according to the ODPP, so the Office of the DPP, Silvera initially pleaded not guilty to murder on both counts of the indictment, but guilty to manslaughter. Prosecutors advised the court that acceptance of a plea to the lesser offense would require a factual basis from the defense, as manslaughter did not arise on the prosecution's case. The office of the DPP said on Tuesday night the defense submitted a signed statement from Silvera detailing his account of the incident. In that statement, Silvera said he and Mrs. Silvera had an argument that escalated into a physical confrontation, during which she blamed him for the death of their young son, hurled expletives at him, and made what he described as derogatory and provocative remarks about his family. So I guess this is where the provocation is coming in. All right. During the argument, she made a comment about their children, which he found to be the final straw, and at that point, he lost control, discharged his weapon in our direction. And so I was just looking at the word there, losing control, the term there, and maybe he was guided in the context of writing this statement, obviously, perhaps because he has counsel, of course. And so let's continue. He stated that it was not his intention to hurt or unalive her that night, and that having done so, he panicked and left the apartment. Silvera further told prosecutors that in the days following his wife's death, he decided not to admit what had happened because he was thinking about his children losing both parents. The Office of the DPP, said its case was based on circumstantial evidence and ballistic findings, including events before and after Mrs. Silvera's death, but not on direct evidence of what occurred at the moment she was shot. So it's not like they're saying that they did not necessarily have a case because the ballistic findings, I guess, were concrete, but they were saying that they did not have direct evidence of what occurred at the moment. And I would suggest that in the context of, was it enough, or would the circumstantial evidence that they had support a case of murder, or would it be better if they agreed to the lesser of the two and having this I guess acceptance in the form of a statement from Mr. Silvera is, I guess, for them would be a better option. So I don't know. I'm not a lawyer there in that context, but I can understand where they're going, and I can understand where people are saying you could have pushed for the more severe offense of the two. All right. So, after hearing Silvera's account, prosecutors concluded they would not have been able to evidentially negative the partial defense of provocation raised by him. So, what the prosecution is saying, the defense that Mr. Silvera is going to raise is provocation, and they do not have any evidence to go against that. All right, and provocation is a defense, and that is perhaps going to be taken into consideration in the context of the sentencing. All right. So I'm not too sure how do we accept that, but they cited some cases, and so I'm going to go there as well. The Office of the DPP noted that once provocation was raised on the evidence, the court would have been required to direct the jury on its effect, including the possibility of reducing murder to manslaughter. The prosecution said it was guided by established case law, including Gainier Anson versus R, which holds that there where an accused version does not support a murder conviction, a plea to murder should not be accepted. So I guess based on this case, you accept the accused version of it, because if the accused version in this context does not support murder, then manslaughter plea is what should be accepted. I guess that's what this case law is saying. The court was of the view that manslaughter was the more appropriate offense, said the office of the DPP. And then prosecutors also relied, so this is the DPP's office when we mention prosecutors, on Perlina Wright, and that's a case from 1988, which established that sentencing should proceed on the facts most favorable to the accused, where those facts cannot be disproved. And so here again is another case that is, I guess, favoring Mr. Silvera. So because according to the DPP's office, they are unable to prove certain things because what they're relying on is circumstantial evidence. So they're not able to really say, I guess, what happened when Miss Silvera was killed. So in that case, what the case law, so previous, and when we refer to case law, is like we have previous laws that went through the courts, and so they say, okay, this is the standard. If something of a similar nature should happen, this is how we're going to look at it or deal with it. All right. And so in this context, in the context of the case of Perlina, right, what it is saying is that sentencing should not proceed on the facts. Sorry, sentencing should proceed on the facts most favorable to the accused. So the accused here, Mr. Silvera, so what they're saying, if we are going to sentence, it has to be in his context, right? Because the office of the DPP, they are not able to disprove what he's saying. So now it's like, Miss Silvera just does not have a voice. I mean, she's dead, yes, but it's as if we will never know her side of the story. If we, that's what I'm getting. So we'll just hear Mr. Silvera's side, and given that the office of the DPP, they do not have any other evidence according to them, and that's what I'm understanding here, if that is correct. In the context of what happened that night, they have to rely on what Mr. Silvera says. That's just my understanding there. And that's the law, not me. All right. So I guess that's how they're interpreting it. And that's just my understanding of it. I could be wrong. All right, so neither the prosecution nor the court could ignore the version given by Mr. Silvera, especially in circumstances where the prosecution could not disprove the account given by him. All right, so the Office of the DPP also outlined the factual background to the case, noting that sometime after 10:30 p.m. on November 10th, back in 2023, Silvera told his wife and children that he was leaving the house. An argument followed, according to statements from two of the children. Early the following morning, one of the couple's sons discovered Mrs. Silvera's body on the bedroom floor and alerted his sibling before contacting their father. Following that, a post-mortem examination revealed 3 gunshot wounds, and ballistic testing confirmed that projectiles recovered from Miss Silvera's body were fired from Mr. Silvera's licensed Glock pistol. All right, so Mrs. Silvera was initially believed to have died from natural causes before the autopsy findings. And then, and I guess this is a part where a lot of people are not able to understand, because they were saying, okay, how is it that at the initial stage, nobody recognized that, it was gunshot wounds, or there were gunshot wounds? How is it that the time for like retiling and painting and I guess spraying furniture and all of that? So there's actually a factual statement that I am going to go to. It's so hard to read though, in the context of the content of it. It's, yeah, it's sad, but I'll try my best and see what I can share and what I cannot. But let me just take a quick look in the chat. Let me just close out here to see if I can in the chat. All right. Let me see if I can see the comments. I'm not seeing any comments in the chat. All right. So, in the context of the full statement from the DPP, I'm going to, some of it would have been shared already by virtue of what the Gleaner shared in their report. But we talked about the pleas, so I don't need to go back there. I'm perhaps going to go to what happened. So that's where I'm trying to go. We talked about the cases that they're relying on. So these are the facts, all right? So I'm going to try my best to see how I can share this, all right? Sometime after 10:30 p.m. on the 10th day of November 2023, Jolyan Silvera told his wife, Mrs. Silvera, and the children that he was leaving to attend a meeting and that he would return the following day. Mrs. Silvera told him he could not leave, and an argument, I guess, followed, all right? The adults swore at each other and then he left. And I guess this is from what the children would have shared with them. Sometime before 6 a.m. on the 11th day of November 2023, one of the children, who was 10 years of age at the time, went into his parents' bedroom and discovered his mother's lifeless body on the floor next to their bed. He noticed that there was blood and, yeah, coming from openings, I guess, in our body. So I'm just trying to let this be as simple as possible. And her dress was covered also in blood. So that child ran from the bedroom and alerted his brother, who accompanied him back to that bedroom where they both checked for signs of life from, I guess, their mom. They tried to make contact with their father using the Messenger Kid application on their digital device and were eventually successful. So the father, Mr. Silvera, has indicated in a witness statement that he called the Stony Hill police station whilst on his way home after he had spoken to his son. Upon arrival at their home, and I'm going to skip out that address part, Mr. Silvera went to his bedroom, and this is based on the statement they're sharing from the kids, and saw his wife in a sitting position with her head leaning forward at the side of the bed. He touched her, spoke to her, and found that she was not responding. Sometime after, the first responder, who was an officer at the Stony Hill police station, arrived at the house and went into the bedroom where he saw the body of Melissa Silvera. He took a photograph of the body with his Samsung cellular telephone, and Mr. Silvera cried out. He had Mr. Silvera covered the nude section of the body. The first responder did not further examine the body as Mr. Silvera was still crying. All right, so the first responder, after learning from Mr. Silvera that Mrs. Silvera had no known medical condition, indicated that a post-mortem examination would be conducted to determine the cause of death. He then contacted the House of Tranquility Funeral Home for the removal of the body. He then left. All right, so the morgue, they came and I guess they removed the body. The post-mortem was done. All right, and then on that date, that was the first day of November, so December 1st, sorry, 2023, and the pathologist discovered that there were scars on the body. All right. I'm just skipping out some things here. The pathologist also noted that there were three gunshot wounds, all right, to the body, and the pathologist removed two projectiles from the body, which were handed over to the police. And then at that point, the pathologist opined that the immediate cause of death was multiple gunshot wounds. All right, the detectives and the first responder returned to Mr. Silvera's home on the 16th of December 2023. Upon entering the bedroom, it was noticed that the floor was now tiled, the furniture sprayed over, the mattress was replaced with a new one, and the walls were painted. The children's room was also tiled. Mr. Silvera indicated that no one had told him that he could not make changes to the room. Yep, so you can, I guess, what's your view in that context? All right. All right, so Mr. Silvera's iPhone and firearms, for which he held a license, were taken by the police for examination and testing. And so those projectiles that we talked about earlier in the context of the pathologist examination, they were they were tested. All right, so the experts, they did their thing. They contacted the FLA as well, and basically what they came up with was that the projectiles from the body of the deceased, matched in the context of their comparison with what the FLA would have given to them. So, in essence, what they were saying is that they were fired from Mr. Silvera's Glock pistol. All right. And at the conclusion of the ballistics examination, Mr. Silvera was arrested and charged for the offenses of using a firearm to commit a felony and murder. All right, and in the context of this, Mr. Silvera was represented by Mr. Peter Champagny, KC, and Miss Patrice Riley, whilst the prosecution was represented by Mr. Dwayne Green, Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions, and Miss Deborah Bryan, Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions. All right, so that's pretty much the facts in this one. So it is really interesting, I guess, how this case unfolded. And I am not too sure what the sentencing is going to be like. And we'll definitely just have to wait and see. And I'm not going to really comment on, who is lying, or I want the justice system to run its course. All right. And, why is that important? All right. So that is important for us to allow the system to run its course. All I can say at this point is that I hope the kids are doing well, because, with children, kids involved in such a sad situation, like just reading this, it makes me so sad. Like, it's just so hard to read. I can just imagine. So prayers up for them, prayers up for the families who are perhaps torn, sad, just wanting answers for some, just wondering why, this happened, or just wanting justice for their loved one. And so that is important for us to, understand. So let's just keep them in our prayers, right? And so that's all I can say. And in the context of this, I guess the key aspect of this case is that around provocation, and provocation is like a partial defense, and it reduces a charge from murder to manslaughter. And it applies, based on my understanding, when, like a wrongful act. So in this situation, the unaliving of Melissa, and according to the accused, it caused him to, or the actions, surrounding that, cause him to lose self control. I guess in the heat of the moment, heat of the passion, whatever it is. And so that's based on how I read that statement. You could see where the term and that was coming out. And I guess in that sense, I guess the court is going to look at the accused, like, did the accused actually lost control, and I guess whether an ordinary person would have done so too. So I guess yeah, it so really it's not an acquittal, but I guess as we know, it's the lesser of the two offenses, right? When you think about murder and manslaughter. So I'm really interested to see what this sentencing is going to be. And bear in mind, so I think he was arrested back in 2024, January. So no, so 2024, 2025, 2026. So 24 to 25, 1 year, right? 25 to 26, 2 years. So he's already there 2 years. And more than likely, they're going to credit those 2 years for whatever time that they're going to give him. So I am interested in seeing how the defense, what they're going to ask for in terms of a time, and how that will work in terms of the prosecution. I'm just trying to check here to see if that will come up. I was think I'm hearing like manslaughter could be anywhere from 3 years, but I'm double checking. I'm just double checking that. I'm not too sure on that. Let's see. Okay, so I am seeing this, if this is right. Jamaican law is largely based on English common law that we know. The penalty for murder is death, while the penalty for manslaughter ranges from a fine or a probation to life imprisonment. All right, so, well, if that is true, then so they say murder carries a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment, while manslaughter attracts no mandatory penalty, leaving sentencing entirely at the discretion of the presiding judge. All right. Sentences for manslaughter may range from non-custodial penalties to life imprisonment. So, I'm going to look at this article. It's actually from the Gleaner. I guess that's just that. So that's pretty much that. So right now, we'll wait to see what happens. And obviously, the defense, they're going to present their best case, maybe asking for 3 years. I don't know. Or I don't know. Or to say that he did not waste the court's time. He came, before the trial started. He shared. I don't know. But I guess those things will be taken into consideration. But we'll definitely see what happens in the context of this one. We'll follow along and we'll update you as best as we can. Again, I guess I kind of went through that very, I guess, slowly, but just trying to kind of process, or trying not to process too much because it's just too sad. And again, guys, just keep the children, especially, in your prayers, and we'll wait and see what happens. But, if you're in a situation where you believe you need help, please seek help right away, because you never know. You never know. And in this situation, it's just the accused that we are hearing from in the context of statements, because we just don't know what happened. Like, what would Melissa's side of story be like? Not saying what Mr. Silver is putting forward is not true, but I guess people would want to have that in the context of a balance. But according to the office of the DPP, they do not have that kind of evidence in the context of what happened that night, really. And then I guess some of us would say like the evidence that they could collect was really erased or eliminated in the context of the retiling, the painting, and all of that, the spraying of furniture. And so I guess anything that could perhaps put pieces together would have been no more as a result of those activities. But, Mr. Silver was like, nobody told me not to do anything. So he went ahead and I guess did all those things. So that's the context, and that's just my little understanding. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button. And I'll see you in the next live. Bye for now and take care.